Central District right now. This video doesn't need a journal entry because I'm too busy gaming at the moment. More specifically, tweeting my pinball hyperfixation. So I figure, well, why not refer here without authorized permission? But pinball isn't the only fascinating thing in this arcade to check out. Still, it's amazing how arcades these days are making a big comeback in a form of nostalgia preservation, as well as making advancements towards the future of arcades, so newer generations can enjoy. Some say we are transferring the fun overseas from places like Japan or China. I'll explain more when I get home. After another round of Bullwinkle, that is. Whether you like them or hate them, arcades and arcade gaming made up a huge chunk of our childhoods in our past, including mine as well. The American arcade industry was all the rage back in the 70s and early 80s, being projected as the new futuristic way of entertainment. Fueled by Nolan Bushnell's combined management of Atari and Chuck E. Cheese and distributors like Bally, arcade gaming seemed inevitable at this point, until the gaming crash happened with the introduction of home consoles that drove more people out of the arcades and caused Atari to rethink their business strategy into making consoles to keep themselves afloat, triggering the downfall of Chuck E. Cheese and pinball manufacturers like Williams along with it. But lo and behold, a miracle happened when we transitioned from blocky arcade cabinets into developing arcade games with much more categories and advanced features. No thanks to Japan keeping the arcade business alive and active, and the innovation of LCD screens and motion simulator technology. And now here we are in the next golden era of arcades upon us, when Japanese companies like Round One decide to make their shift towards the American market by planting locations across the nation, importing arcade games straight from Japan that will help them grow. A tactic that Namco, Sega, and Taito should be doing with their Japanese arcades as well. Well, at least the Chinese and Taiwanese are making their move for them by hosting colorful, flashy arcades in the New York metropolitan area, mostly claw machines, but they do have their own occasional rhythm and racing bootlegs like this one here. My god, are they so infatuated with claw machines here. Trust me, I went to one in Flushing. More than half the joint is filled with claw machines. I want a delightful cheese plush from it. Personally, I grew up being close to the arcades. I was a usual Chuck E. Cheese and Dave & Buster's visitor, and I usually visited my two local arcades before one of them closed. I remembered my local Chuck E. Cheese in Long Island City having a Studio C Alpha animatronic at one point, and now with pinball being my newest hyperfixation and a new Round One opening near me, the arcade itch is slowly crawling back to me. I still have my banner passport with me from nearly 5 years ago for Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 5DX Plus. Hard to believe I used to emulate Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune and Initial D arcade stage around the time I got it as well. But I'll have to cut my infatuation with arcades short so I can continue this review. So in lieu of celebrating arcades, here's GAMECADE. GameCade is an indie animation series created by NCS artists that's been around for quite a while now. Hell, it's been here longer than the first episode of Indiehemius. I figured that it was a bit long overdue for me to cover this once and for all, especially right now because it's all about arcades and I'm obsessed with arcades and you get the point. There's only 2 episodes at this time, with the third one said to still be in production, even after over a year since the second episode released. And to my surprise, we're still getting updates to the show's progression. So until the time comes, will the first and only 2 episodes of GameCade be as enjoyable as Pinball or Round One? Well, it's time to pop a quarter in to find out. GameCade is about a mall arcade, and a team of animal employees who work there, and among those employees is Gloose, a cat who works at the arcade and is overall the silent protagonist of GameCade. While the 2 episodes of GameCade don't really have much of interesting plots going on, they do succeed in one skill that's important to the show, the humor. You see, this show is pretty funny. I can tell that for weak and uninteresting plots, GameCade seems to make up for that a bit by having some hilarious writing and editing, with its performance peaking at chaotic and random humor. Yeah, I guess it's subtle compared to some of the shows I like and reviewed, but it's just enough to surpass the humor in shows like Pain Girl and Loki IRL. The humor in the show can be very chaotic and out of this world, especially in the second episode where you have the manager distracted from watching the security cameras by playing a burger game instead. Or even how Gloose looks at himself in the mirror and his reflection is just a real-life plush of himself. That doesn't happen for no reason. That scene was definitely coordinated to how the creator wants it to be. The chaotic and random humor definitely fits the style for this show well. It's what GameCade needs. So I am hoping we can get more of this similar humor in the next GameCade episode, if it ever comes out. Hell, maybe even stronger if we're lucky with the new writing. I just hope it doesn't overdo the randomness to the point where the plot becomes incomprehensive and difficult to pinpoint the important narrative when it's covered by the wacky random comedy this show persists on emitting. You can have humor, but not too much humor. This show isn't qualifiable to be the next Uncle Grandpa, because even though I said this chaotic type of humor was exactly what this show needs, its randomness is something of a factor to consider when trying to follow the story of GameCade. Still, this show is funny. It was made to be funny, and it did its job well being funny, and I hope the next episode is just as funny as the last one. Animation of GameCade is subtle, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Its Newgrounds style animation is pretty good and has effort. Think of the Newgrounds style animation I assumed Pain Girl of having in my last review on her. It's not too high budget, but it's also not too unprofessional and cheaply made like the Oddfellows movie. It's just right and has honest work put into it. GameCade has the exact same direction that Pain Girl's animation is going, except with extra frames added, and perhaps even more movement as well. Its high-tier Newgrounds animation animated exceptionally by one person, and that makes you realize that the animation was made with pure heart and soul. No wonder why the 3rd episode is taking this long to be made. Animation really does take time after all, huh? One thing I wish the show would put more effort in are the backgrounds. Oh, how I feel bad for the background art. For an indie animation series focusing around an arcade, I expected the background to be livelier, like how today's arcade would be, but here, they rarely have a grand color palette. Sometimes the cabinets look incomplete from a distance. I can't tell whether those are pinball machines or actual cabinets behind Nance and Dave. How am I supposed to geek out about which real-life pinball table it closely resembles to? I wouldn't blame NCS for the lackluster background art, since it's usually done by another person according to the credits. But if I were him, I'd best to do better in illustrating the background art in this show, especially for most of the arcade part. Nonetheless, it doesn't excuse the animation from being good. Like I said, it's subtle, yet it has exceptional standards for a Newgrounds-based animation project. Now let's get into the characters.
Hey, how you doing? Going good.
There aren't many characters that span within the 2 episodes of GameCade aside from the background characters, but the team of employees behind the mall arcade are probably the most important. Personally, I think the GameCade staff are funny despite bearing pretty normal designs. The way they hilariously adapt to the nature of the arcade is what brings out the charm in them, especially Gloose, who is the silliest out of all of them. He's supposed to resemble the silent protagonist type in the series, a trope that I almost never see in in all the indie animation stuff I've watched or reviewed so far. Unless if you want to count Boy and the World to be indie animation rather than a movie. Seriously, it's an amazing film, one of my favorite animated ones of all time. I really have to make a video on that soon. You guys should check it out. Back to Gloos, he's the mute main character who holds one special trait that makes him an interesting mute character. He's funny, and I've said it before while covering the story that this show is entirely funny in general, but I believe Gloos is personally funny on a level many indie animation characters can't reach. That level is being uniquely funny because you don't need dialogue to stick out on the fact that you're the funniest one. He's like a Charlie Chaplin-esque character. In fact, you can love almost all the staff members because they are uniquely funny in their own way, just like Gloos. One character I do have a problem with is Nance, the green wolf who plays as the substitute while her girlfriend, Beth, is out for the day in episode 2. It's not that I hate her design nor think she's unfunny. I think of those as the opposite. She's like Luna if she was entirely made out of gas station weed. It's just that I don't really find her that necessary in the show. Like, is she really needed in the plot? I get that she has an interesting personality and that she's as much of a laughable troublemaker as Gloos is, and that's good about her character. I just don't like the way she's inserted into the story. I mean, if you really think you can make a good character to pair Gloos with and draw art of her more than the other characters, especially gain a ton of fan art of her as a result, then why was she written to be mostly here for one episode only? It seems like a one-time thing, to be only there for a single episode and remain a cult favorite character among GameCade. I get that when Beth returns, she reveals that Nance has a banking job that seems more professional and earns more money than at the arcade. But if she really adores this place, Gloos, her girlfriend, and the whole damn mall, then why not make her a full-time or part-time employee of the arcade like her girlfriend Beth? What's wrong with that? The arcade could use an extra helping hand around. Maybe we'll see more of Nance in the future regarding the high popularity with her. Hell, maybe we'll see her in episode 3 where she finally quits her banking job to work at the arcade with Gloos. Sounds like a good outcome, doesn't it? Brings out the use in her character other than being some random pothead that crashes in the show every now and then. And one more thing, the voice acting is delightful in this show. It's ironically energetic and full of life despite the fact the Gloos is entirely silent. In fact, this is the best voice acting I've heard in a while, even better than the last show I reviewed so far. Speaking on behalf of the minor and background characters, as well as the overall arcade staff and Nance, that is. To sum it all up, the characters are a blast in GameCade. They're funny, unique, and have great personality, despite their simple design. And now that we have everything covered, it's time to find the culprit of my— oh hey Pac-Man! Wait, hold on, I think I fucked up. And now that we have everything covered, it's time to find the culprit of my overall opinion on this show. GameCade may not be a show that directly references the true history of arcade games or takes inspiration from real-life legendary cabinets, pinball tables, or game companies in general, even if I did talk about how much arcades have impacted me in the beginning of this. It's a funny and chaotic slice of life revolving around working at an ordinary mall arcade. With humor around every corner, Newgrounds-coded animation that fits the vibe, and uniquely funny characters including a well-played silent protagonist, this show is a recommendation for gamers and arcade fans who are also infatuated with indie animation. Albeit it does need some room to improve concerning the lackluster background art and the placement of the fanservice wolf girl Nance in the series, and deserves a suitable and murky role in it other than just bouncing around from here to there. But this doesn't excuse the series from being fun to watch. Feel free to watch the first 2 episodes on YouTube. They've been out for, well, quite quite a while now, and despite the year-long gap from its release and reviewing this, it still looks like we'll be getting a third episode anytime soon. It really does show how indie animation takes time to make, even for a solo animator and a group of voice actors. So let's hope that time makes episode 3 a huge improvement from the last 2. With that being said, this has been yet again another episode of Indiehemius. I've been Bohemius, and this one's in the bag. I'll see you all on my next case, and remember, please, please, please visit and support your local arcade. They're way more important than libraries. See ya!